Hello, and welcome to the Gaia update for the Mercury Retrograde that's happening February 17th to March 10th, 2020. I'm Adrienne Elise. This Mercury Retrograde has some very powerful messages for us and support for these shifting times. This Mercury retrograde is happening over the Aquarius Pisces cusp. So it starts at 12 degrees Pisces. Mercury goes back into Aquarius and then back into Pisces. 3 times over this Aquarius Pisces cusp, speaking to the adjustments, the changes in our everyday thinking, our reality, to the new age that lies ahead. So very potent and powerful, and it feels like we're still recovering from the last Mercury retrograde that happened in Scorpio. And indeed, those same issues that got stirred up for us back in October and November of 2019 are on the table, because one of the profound energies of this Mercury retrograde season is that Black Moon Lilith and Chiron are in an exact conjunction for a couple of weeks there at the end of February, beginning of March, right during this Mercury retrograde. So Black Moon Lilith represents our deepest, darkest fears and darkest places, shadowy places within. Chiron is the wounded healer. It brings an opportunity for deep psychic healing. In Aries, it's about the healing of our self-image, of who we are. And indeed, so many souls who have gone through traumatic lifetime experiences, still here on the planet, but broken, fractured from that sense of their true self, their bigger self. And everything right now is saying that in order to move into the Aquarian age, into the new energies, into the new era, we've got to put ourselves back together and figure out who we really are and stand up and fight for that truth. So let's talk through some key dates of this Mercury retrograde. And Mercury has moved into retrograde shadow in the beginning of February. It was a very powerful energy as it came into a trine. So the Mercury moved into shadow at the very beginning of February and then moved over into Pisces and made a trine with the North Node. So three times Mercury is going to go over this Pisces Aquarius cusp, and 3 times it makes a trine with the North Node in Cancer, and 3 times it makes a sextile with Uranus, the ruler of Aquarius, in Taurus. So these are very supportive transits, and although we've got this deep psychic healing and facing the darkness happening, we also are having support trying to come in for these shifts that are essential to happen for us in order to move into the future. So that very first the first sextile that Mercury made with Uranus happened on the 5th of February. So February, starting the beginning of February is when this whole energy began. And then on that full moon that happened on the 9th in Leo, that's when Mercury made its first trine with the North Node and saying, we can do this, we can move forward, but it is going to take a massive adjustment. But trines are very harmonious, and it's between the same element, right? So Cancer's a water sign, Pisces a water sign. And so it's saying, hey, we can do this. We can work together. We can pool our resources, our skills, our understanding, and make this happen. And in this case, complete and total shift of what is the thinking. It's kind of like what we're examining here, because Mercury is our mind, our everyday reality. What is the thinking of the Piscean age? What is the thinking of the Aquarian age? Very different, right? And so it's very important messages coming through that, like I said, go back to that last Mercury retrograde, because that's when that whole galactic center activation started happening again too. And just as we're moving into the retrograde energy, Mars makes its powerful conjunction with the galactic center. And Mars is a big player in this energy because on the day of this Mercury retrograde that starts on February 17th, Monday, President's Day in the US. That's the same day that Mars moves over into the sign of Capricorn, meaning like, let's get serious about what we're doing here. Let's make some stuff happen in this world that represents the changes we've been going through. Because Mars wants to make stuff happen. Mars wants to move. And it's the male energy, our warrior side. And in this case, moving from Sagittarius, that incredible galactic center activation, divine masculine, shooting off into the stars to get the bigger picture of our greater destiny and getting back on that quest. Now it's time to get to work and get serious about the practical steps that need to happen to get that to occur. And that's everything that this Mercury retrograde is trying to get us to rearrange, reassimilate, reorient in our everyday reality. So really powerful energy that all starts there on the 17th of February. Now, there is a new moon and Pisces new moon that happens on the 24th of February. That new moon is in a relationship to Black Moon Lilith and Chiron, as well as Uranus. One sign over, two signs over from Uranus. So there's kind of this very gentle, very magical, talking about solutions and working together to figure this all out. But that new moon in Pisces says we move from the Piscean age to the Aquarian age. Part of the big concepts in that shift is letting go of these deepest, darkest places in our psyche that we haven't been willing to face or look at. Deep grief, deep, darkest emotions, deep, dark feelings about ourselves. All that has to be brought into the light. In Aries, that's where these planets are, or that's where Black Moon Lilith and asteroid Chiron are in relationship to that new moon in Pisces. So everything is saying, hey, how do we do this? How do we get out of the victimhood of Pisces and into some new possibilities, a new way of thinking, a new paradigm, a better world, a better life? That's what we're trying to do here. And of course, we've been in this transition and stuck in the middle of it for so long. And we are going to still feel that during this Mercury retrograde, because Mercury retrograde, the energy kind of slows down. Mercury is a main action planet. And so when it's in retrograde, it's kind of like, wait a minute, hold on. Wait a minute, I got to think this through again. I got to go back through the steps. I got to figure out what I'm doing. And so in a way, it's a welcome energy because so many souls are feeling so clueless about their next steps. And that's actually a good thing. It means you're doing it right, because we are in such a massive shifting time. It is impossible to know what lies ahead, especially as a soul that said yes to this experience, which if you're watching this, that's probably you, even before you came into this incarnation. And so here we are. We're going through it. So Mercury makes its second trine with the North Node at the end of February. Then it's like deep into its retrograde. And that is also the same day on the 26th of February that Mars trines up with the North Node. So it's interesting that we've got Mars in square and Mercury in trine, all speaking to getting the messages of this last couple of months of the North Node in Cancer about receiving. So it's like, okay, so yeah, there's a whole bunch of psychic healing energy available, but do you feel safe enough to let that happen? Can you slow down from the trauma of life enough to receive the healing and come into connection with that great mother energy that's trying to hold us and help us through this? This is this Mercury trine North Node. Mars square the North Node is the frustration coming up around not being able to get out of this stuck spot. And yet it's happening in the middle of Mercury retrograde. So good luck, Mars. Just hold up. Hold up a minute. We're not quite there. I know we've been hearing this a lot, but this is what we're doing right now in the shift of ages, very different energies. It's like jimmying the lock on our reality. And that's this Mercury retrograde. It's like, okay, I go hang out in Pisces and then back to Aquarius, back to Pisces, and try to get this oriented, figure out what's going on. And the adjustments, it's like micro adjustments. A lot of the transits we've been having have been sextile, semi-sextile. Those are like little tiny adjustments and trying to work together to find solutions. So, at the end of February on the 29th, Mercury makes its second sextile to Uranus. And the Mercury sextile Uranus is creative solutions. Mercury in Pisces, but in retrograde, trying to sort through the past. But Uranus is about the new energies coming in, right? So it's like, ooh, a little new, ooh, a little old, ooh, a little new, a little old. Of course, the same place we've been for so long, 1 foot in the new paradigm, 1 foot in the old paradigm. And that's the energy. We kind of have to embrace this unknown, embrace this straddling timelines, straddling realities, straddling the past and the future, and who knows, totally different dimensional realities, perhaps. That is going to be the feeling of this, because Pisces always brings kind of a weird feeling anyway, because it's like connecting to that bigger part of the wholeness of us, and yet things get very confusing in between, so Mercury really wants to make sense of things, and in Pisces there's not a lot of sense to be made, and so that is an interesting energy. And Mercury will move back into Aquarius on March 5th. So all of February, we've got Mercury in Pisces, total confusion, but we are rearranging. Then back into Aquarius on March 5th. There's a full moon on March 9th. Very powerful. That's a full moon in Virgo. And the full moon in Virgo will be opposite, of course, the sun in Pisces. And the sun is close to Neptune. So the sun, Neptune, ruler of Pisces, in Pisces, opposing this full moon, shining the light on the Piscean age, shining the light on the whatever energies there we are still clinging to in the old paradigm. And again, the whole theme of this whole period of time is shining the light on the darkest places that have been holding us back. So that's a very powerful energy there. And then the day after that full moon, Mercury turns direct at 28 degrees Aquarius. And so that's on March 10th. So that's going to be when we start to feel like, oh, okay, whoa, motion's coming back, forward motion's coming back. We are doing something here. There is a bigger plan and a bigger picture to this whole deal of the time that we live, and realizations can come through. Mercury's the messenger, and it's our everyday thinking, but it's trying to connect to our higher self, to the bigger messages, and maybe somehow find the way in. So there could be, as we come out of this Mercury retrograde, a lot of clarity for a lot of souls that have been feeling really in the dark about their next steps and where they're going and what they're doing and who they are and everything like that. We do have to have a complete reorientation to who we are and who we think we are, and to move into the new energies. And that is a lot of what this whole Mercury retrograde is about, because of that Aries energy with Black Moon Lilith and Chiron there. So this whole time of this Mercury in Pisces moving into Aquarius and then coming into turning direct, that's exactly at the end of February and beginning of March. That's when the exact conjunction of Black Moon Lilith and Chiron occur. So it's like the shining of the light, the clarity, it still has everything to do with facing the darkness and clearing out the deepest, darkest corners of where we haven't wanted to even acknowledge exist. And now we got to get in there like a little toothbrush, the nitty gritty, get that stuff out of there, because we can't take it with us and it's holding us back. So on the 17th of March, so a full month after the retrograde starts, Mercury moves in to the sign back into Pisces. And so then it's kind of really coming out of that retrograde energy. And then on the 21st, so the equinox is on the 20th of March, and that is when the sun moves into Aries. So that's going to be a really huge shifting time. Also because Mars is coming into conjunction with Jupiter and Pluto. So Jupiter, we know that this 2020 is about Saturn, Pluto, and Jupiter all being in Capricorn together. Very intense. January was when Saturn and Pluto were together. That's coming off now as Saturn moves forward to 26 degrees right around this time of this retrograde. And so that's coming off, but really we're not going to understand the Saturn-Pluto conjunction until Jupiter comes into the play. And the first conjunction is Jupiter with Pluto right at that spring equinox and with Mars. And so very powerful energy, but maybe some feeling of moving forward that we haven't been able to, and direction and will and ability to act. So when you're in confusion of the shifting and the changing, it's really hard to make decisions. It's really hard to move forward. It's hard to use that will force, which that's what Mars is. And so Mars having this, Jupiter, Pluto is massive. And then Mars in the play is kind of like, oh my gosh, for spring, for this equinox energy. So that's really potent. That happens on the equinox is the 20th. And then on the 21st, we have the third and final Mercury trine the North Node. So yes. Now, when we get these transits that happen because of a retrograde 3 times, you get the gift of it, the message of it on the third pass. So that time right there around the equinox and leading up to the new moon that will happen on March 24th, that's going to be a key time to get messages, clarity, and kind of figure out where you're going perhaps and what your next steps are. I don't think we're really in a place to make huge plans for the future right now, but maybe some next steps and maybe a little bit of clarity of what's going on. And then the third and final Mercury sextile Uranus, about these creative solutions of trying to, it's like we cannot receive those new energies till we get rid of the dark shit stuff that's in the corners of our life. And so this is this trying to jimmy the lock on that, a little bit more new energy coming in. Okay, a little more shining the light in the corner and clearing it out. A little more new energy can come in. And so that third and final pass is going to be powerful on that level of maybe feeling like crossing over to have we've had 1 foot in the new paradigm, 1 foot in the old, but maybe the weight, we're putting a weight on testing the grid, that what the energies we're moving into. And that happens on the 22nd. So really potent energy there at right around that equinox. And on the around that equinox, the 20th to the 21st, that's when Mars and Jupiter come into their exact conjunction, and Mars and Pluto come into their exact conjunction on the 23rd. And then Jupiter, Pluto stay close are in exact conjunction from the 29th of March into April 6th. So that end from the equinox into the first week of April, power packed. And I think, we'll see what the messages come as we get closer, but we definitely want to be present and paying attention. If you're ready to move in your life and you want to get serious with this, what you're doing here on the planet, we got to really pay attention during that time, and it could be really pay off for us to do that. And so on the 30th of March is when Mercury comes out of that retrograde shadow. So we are starting, we started this at the beginning of February and it goes to the end of March, this energy, 2 full months of this retrograde season and trying to reorient. And then it won't be until that about March 17th, when Mercury moves back into Pisces, that it starts to make more sense what this is about. And of course, massive activation with Mars, Pluto, Jupiter, and spring equinox in the northern hemisphere and fall equinox in the southern hemisphere. So we've got a few weeks of hanging out in that in-between place and being okay in the unknown and being okay in the dark and facing those deep, dark fears with our Black Moon Lilith Chiron activation. And then it's time to move ahead and get going on this story. So I hope you have a wonderful Mercury retrograde season. Hang in there. Know that there's a lot of positive forces with the sextile, with Uranus and trine the North Node. It's like, come on, we can do this. You know, we can do this. And it would be one thing to have that just the Black Moon Lilith Chiron energy, but with this Mercury retrograde with it, it's like, come on, we're all going to work together here to figure out how to get into that next place, and a powerful culmination of that energy on March 9th with that full moon in Virgo with the sun close to Neptune, speaking to all of the mysteries we haven't been able to quite figure out about the Piscean age that are keeping us in the old energies. And so I hope you have a wonderful Mercury retrograde season. I look forward to seeing you soon and the full moon, new moon activations and the updates. And until then, I'm Adrienne Elise. Namaste.